Hi, everybody. I'm Bryan Mudd, a fan of South Plains politics. Here's your talking points for this week. Panic buying. Fears over coronavirus lead some to stockpile things they likely don't need, leading to drastic measures from local stores. And why some candidates in last week's primary election had to make some tough decisions this week over whether or not to protest what happened at the polls.
From the studios of KMAC Television in Lubbock, your local election headquarters. This is Talking Points with Bryan Mudd.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Before we get going, know that we will talk about the coronavirus situation in a little while. First, though, I wanted to just give you a break from some of that. We probably all needed a bit and get into some political news of the past week. Starting with the second and final vote on rezoning an area of North Lubbock for the new County Expo Center. The City Council ended up voting 5-2 in favor of the change after an amendment to keep a portion of the land closest to North University as a residential zoned area to force the screening committee, really, to make sure they mitigate some of the potential traffic and noise issues that people who live in that area have had with it. Not a problem, says Committee Chairman Randy Jordan.
Now that we're here and we know what the zoning is going to be and we've gotten the city's approval, now we can move forward in earnest with our planning and our designing and be ready to go. We've done a lot of that preliminary stepping out in faith, but now we know that we can, this is our track, and that we can move forward with that. See, that would be eligible for
now they go to work on some fundraising to fill in the gaps from the hotel occupancy tax money for that deal. A few of the races from the recent primary election will go to a runoff. One of the races isn't quite finished yet, though. Remember, Lubbock attorney Larry Dawson was appointed by the governor to serve as justice for the 7th Court of Appeals. He has now filed to contest the primary election that he ran in to try to keep that job. Dawson finds himself 319 votes right now behind Amarillo attorney Stephen Denny. But a mistake was made, and voters in 2 counties, Cochran and Collinsworth, did not get a chance to vote in the primary. And with that, let's bring in Justice Larry Dawson to talk a little bit more about this whole situation. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Bryan.
So take us through this whole deal. Now, when did you figure out that there was a problem with some of the ballots in those 2 counties?
It was actually election night, March the 3rd, going through looking at the ballot results for each county, which reports separately. 2 of the counties, Collinsworth, Cochran County, reported that 100% of their precincts were reporting as being in. But when you looked at our actual race, there were 0 ballots actually being counted for that race. So I reached out to the Republican county chairs in both counties at that time, it's probably 12:30 in the morning, and said, hey, tell me what's going on. Is there something else going on with the ballots? Did y'all forget to report this to the Secretary of State's office? And the response I received back was, we don't know what you're calling about or why you're on this ballot. We're going to have to call you back. And so the next day I received word that actually the problem was that the race indeed was omitted from the ballot, so the voters didn't have an opportunity to ever vote.
Do we know yet why this happened? Whose fault is this, I guess is the question?
I don't know where the fault lay. I know that the ballots are initially put together by the Republican Party in Austin, and that's transmitted through each individual county. As far as who's got the responsibility of checking to make sure the ballots are accurate, I don't know if that's in Austin or the county level or where that actually goes.
Right. So what goes into someone figuring out, someone being a candidate, of what kind of recourse you would have in a situation like this? Because I would think most candidates, even you with a big legal background, aren't entirely versed on the election codes, right?
Right, yeah, so the Texas legislature has set out the process in the election code itself. So I knew generally where to look to start to find an answer, but candidly I had to go find somebody who does that on a full-time basis because they're the ones who handle these types of issues. Right. And I'd received some good advice on calling an attorney, called an attorney in Austin who practices election law full-time and said, all right, here's the situation, will you check it out and let me know what you think? And he called me back and he said, yeah, we've got some problems that when you've got, I mean, any voter omitted from the opportunity to vote, but 1,200 voters, in fact, that's a big deal, not only for this particular race, but for the voters who didn't get a chance to say what they wanted.
Sure. So take us through now what happens now that you've filed to contest the election.
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to say is we've tried to look for all their alternative ways to try to resolve this, and the election code says if a voter doesn't have an opportunity to vote, the only way to resolve it is to file a lawsuit. So we tried to determine, is there a Is there a way to do it without filing a lawsuit? And the answer to that is no.
Because there's resources, state resources involved now to deal with that, right?
That's right.
Right.
And the legislature actually has got a pretty good approach to that. What you don't want to happen is have an election dispute break out and then have some backroom meeting where the power bosses decide who wins or who loses that issue. So what you do instead is you have to file a lawsuit. It has to be filed in a county of residents of one of the opponents in this case. So in this case, I filed it in Potter County, in Amarillo. And the next step in the process is the election code calls for a judge to be named who does not reside within the 46 county area. You don't have any hometown going on that way. You've got somebody, a visiting judge who comes in who doesn't know anything about the case, doesn't know anything about the parties. That judge hears the evidence, listens to the arguments, reads what the election code has to say, and then makes a decision on, do you let the decision stand? Do you call for a new election? And if you call for a new election, how many counties vote? Do you start from scratch, or do you only have the 2 counties affected?
So there's a possibility that all of the counties involved here may have to vote again on this at some point.
That's right. And in fact, that's what the election code actually calls for. It says if an individual is deprived of the opportunity to vote as a result of a decision by someone who's in the government level, the election is considered void and you have a new election. So that would be all 46 counties.
Wow. But Judge May has some leeway to make a change on that if he wants to.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how that's going to play out. There's the hearing that hasn't been set yet. Obviously, a judge hasn't been named at this point, and there will be an opportunity for the parties to present their arguments, and then it's really going to be up to the judge on what the judge wants to do on that.
This seems like a no-brainer if you're a candidate to go and file and do this kind of thing, but do you worry about what public opinion might be because you're challenging this and the election is sort of over? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
You always are concerned about, I guess the way you're perceived. I'm more concerned about the way the public has an opportunity to participate in the government process. I mean, so 2 ways to look at it. Number one, there's currently a difference of 319 ballots in our race, but you've got 2 counties omitted, so you've got about 1,200 voters. So obviously for purposes of an election and for the candidates, it's important. But I think more importantly, it's important for the 1,200 people who showed up to the polls on election day to vote who were deprived of that opportunity. You've got, you think about the things you carry along in your wallet. You've got your driver's license, you've got your credit card, you've got your voter registration card. All right. Well, you don't have a right to hold a credit card. You don't have a right to drive. But you do have a right to vote, and that's one of those things that people actually fought and died for to try to protect. So you want to make sure that people aren't disenfranchised from that opportunity.
This is absolutely fascinating to me. Stay on speed dial and let us know what's going on with this race.
Sure will.
Justice Larry Dawson from the 7th Circuit Court. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
All right, let's do this week's poll question. Do you agree with the decision by the NCAA to cancel all spring sporting events due to the concerns over spreading coronavirus? Talk to us on our KMAC News Facebook page and on everythinglubbock.com. Just click on Talking Points and give us your opinion. Straight ahead, potentially a huge White House promotion for a Texas Tech alum. And speaking of promotions, it's getting real now for this mechanic who injected himself into the political world and went and got himself elected to the county commissioner's court.